7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
All right, welcome into Vegas Squares podcast. Spike and myself in studio. It's hard to do a sports podcast when there are no sports. I know that's the motto of this week. I'm sure that a lot of people are probably having difficulty coming up with an innovative show that's not just list radio. You know what we should do list radio of? Top 2 athletes that tested positive for coronavirus.
Oh, okay. So we've got.
I'm going to go with Donovan Mitchell and Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is an athlete?
It was a bad diss to Rudy Gobert.
Oh, okay. I was going to say there's you could have put Mikel Arteta in there too.
Oh yeah, soccer.
Yeah.
Did he? They said he's pretty much recovered at this point.
Oh yeah, and for everybody that gets it, that's under like 60, it should be recoverable. But
all right. So without getting into any political drama,
yes,
are you part of Team Panic or Team Bullshit?
I am on.
Bullshit's not the right word, but Team Panic or Team Proceed with Caution.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think there are enough people out there that are being cavalier about it that there is a Team Bullshit. So I am.
There probably is a Team Bullshit.
So I am on Team. Let's use common sense and proceed with caution. I am maybe even not panic, but in overly cautious. I think is probably my better way of saying it. Because it's one of those things where I know that if I get it, I'm probably going to be okay. I know that I don't.
Let's hope he's not.
Okay. I know that I don't necessarily live with anybody or interact with anybody on a day-to-day basis that would be in danger of this, but I know that I could potentially inadvertently pass it on to somebody who could pass it on to somebody who would be ill-affected by this. Like, I just started a new job a couple of weeks ago, found out my boss's husband is 80 years old, and he has, like, chronic breathing problems. Mm-hmm. So if I got it, and I pass it on to her, she could then pass it on to him.
Correct.
And that would be a problem. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, if that means that I have to work from home...
But I mean, by the time you figure out you've got it, because the percentage chance of actually someone catching it is low when they follow proper procedures, it'd be too late.
Yeah, it would be.
And it's very unfortunate. Yes,
but that's why,
well, let me know.
Out of this overabundance of caution, I've been advocating for a work from home or a telecommuting type schedule.
Well, I don't want to push you into Team Panic, but you know my job, and I come in contact with an abundance of nasty people. Yes. Let's just put it there, and that's just putting it nicely. So,
and that's just their attitude. I mean, their physical
that's just
attributes.
When they pick their boogers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, you're right. Proceed with caution. Not much you can do. Let's not get into dive. We know this is out here, this pandemic, but it has obviously taken a toll on something that we talk about every week. Sports.
Yeah.
We don't have the majority of them, if any. I mean, I know that I was being suggested to bet darts, and I believe there is some kind of like Mexican league. I don't know.
The Mexican Soccer League is still going on right now.
Mexican League.
I threw a parlay on 4 teams that I had never heard of last night.
How'd it go?
One of them won.
One of them won.
Well, that was the only game played last night. The other 3 are today. So,
I'm still on an open ticket.
Still alive. Still an open ticket on William Hill, which I'm sure that they love to see that people are like, all right, let's fucking throw things at whatever.
All things considered, especially since the Wynn has announced this week that they are closing their poker room and sports books starting Monday.
Really? I hadn't heard that.
There's not a ton of things that people bet except for the things that still exist. UFC, if you're listening here on Saturday, UFC tonight, there is betting options available because it's down in Brazil. Also, futures tickets are available, and also I believe William Hill and some offshore accounts have already put out college football week 1 lines.
Really?
Well, they're getting those things shouldn't come out till May, and now they're coming out in March because they need revenue.
Yeah,
they need handle to start, and if people are that desperate to not really do their research and bet, well, then this is an opportunity for companies like that to make money. I actually bought William Hill stock. It went way down. So I bought William Hill, and I bought the company that owns DraftKings.
Oh, okay.
So I'm no stock expert if you take a look at my portfolio, especially the last 2 weeks. But that's just where I'm at as far as the sports gambling world. I forget the ticker number, but William Hill and the Diamond Eagle Acquisition Corporation are the ones that are in bed with DraftKings. So, speaking of those kind of things, let's thank the sponsors. 12-Ounce Sports Radio, where we air every weekend. You can see us on Zingo TV as well. Use promo code 12-Ounce Sports on your Fire Stick. And also Seat Giant, promo code 12-Ounce Sports for your discounted sporting event, concert, and theater tickets. All right, now that the bills are paid, speaking back with coronavirus, kind of this thing. Obviously, it's going to be the central theme of our show, but one thing I'm hoping coronavirus does actually cancel out, I got jury duty. I got a summons in the mail this week.
I did jury duty my senior year in college. It was
I've never done it before.
It was a drug case where a guy on multiple occasions dealt cocaine to a usual buyer, and the usual buyer was so desperate to get off of the drug that he brought an undercover cop with him to the...
to get off the drug or to get off the charge?
To get off the drug and the charge.
Well, yeah, of course. The charge is number one.
It was basically the guy who was addicted to coke, decided he didn't want to do coke anymore, so he walked into a police station and said...
cut off his buyer.
and said, I'm a cocaine addict, I need help, give me a cop that we can go buy off my dealer and get him arrested and deported.
Wow.
And
deported.
Yeah.
The guy, some narco shit.
The guy was from like the Dominican or something. But yeah, no, it was a 3-day trial, 3 or 4 day trial, something like that. And they fed us every day, which is pretty nice.
That would be the only thing I'd be looking forward to in a jury trial, being fed.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting.
Hope they bring empanadas
to see the procedures and see the back and forth and to see how the attorneys worked, and you could see the defense attorney, getting frustrated because the acts had happened multiple years prior to the arrest. He's just like, you remember from 3 years ago exactly what this guy was wearing, and it's kind of like Law and Order shit. Like, it was an interesting.
Well, the defense has to. All they have to do is poke holes. You know how. I'm sure you know more than anybody. I don't know if you guys discuss those kind of things on your downtime, but all the defense has to do is just poke one little hole.
Yep, like a little pinprick in a condom.
Surprise! Gender reveal. So did you convict the guy?
We did, yeah. So he was up for...
Did he get deported?
Yeah, did you
write a book?
don't know officially what the sentencing was because we weren't there for that. We rendered the verdict and then we left, and then the sentencing came later.
By the judge.
But he was up for, I think, 6 charges of selling, 5 or 6 charges. It was like 3 years per charge, and they basically said, we're going to have him serve 3 years and then deport him.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
3 years and deported. Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting one. All right, well, like I said, this is going to be kind of a mild-mannered coronavirus situation. Obviously, sports are on hold. My favorite thing is people on Twitter, because we all know that the rationality of Twitter is second to none. There's people on Twitter, if you find them in the tiniest pockets, that are... The hashtag boycott NFL is starting because they are mad that NFL has not postponed their season. And I'm not talking about their off season.
Yeah.
I'm talking about their regular football season.
I saw that they were advocating for them to postpone, or at least delay the start of free agency. So,
but I mean, the free agency, it's not large gatherings.
Right.
Probably could telecommute most of it, but if you're a free agent in the NFL, this is, especially for a guy like Tom Brady, this is your first chance for the teams to swoon over you and tell you how great you are. And I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't feel as loved and welcomed over a Facebook portal as I would if the team actually came and wined and dined and 69'd me.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not wine. I don't drink wine.
Oh, there you go. Okay. That's better, I guess.
Fuck you. Respond.
Look,
I mean, you and I aren't going to be affected if the GM, Mark Davis flies out to see Tom Brady. At no point are we going to be affected by that.
right. Well, I mean, maybe not. I actually walked past within that 5-foot bubble of Mark Davis at the last Golden Knights game I went to.
You are showing some symptoms.
Yeah, well, of a bad haircut. But
Well, that's why you wore a hat today.
yeah. But I kind of get it in the sense that, yes, Tom Brady and the big-name free agents probably don't need to meet face-to-face with the personnel from different teams. But, like, the guys on the bottom of the roster probably do. They probably have to do physical activities to show that they are healthy enough to warrant a contract and that they are healthy enough that they can, help the team.
Skilled enough.
Yeah. And, all these guys probably have to go through physicals, too. So you're putting the doctors who, can be focusing on things other than, the shape of these athletes.
Well, usually you bring your medical doctors.
Well,
I don't think team medical doctors are out there fighting the corona fight.
Maybe not. I know in Massachusetts they just said any nurse or doctor that's licensed in another state, if they come to Massachusetts, they will give them licensure same day so that they can help in Massachusetts because they expect to be overrun in the hospitals and have shortages
and that's
of
fine
medical
if you want to make a
personnel.
decision to do that, but I mean, you have a contract to your team to honor with your team. I mean, at that point, I don't know how. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I don't know how the 32 doctors that make up the NFL teams, which they may actually have other obligations as well. I don't know if that's going to create a national shortage in that spot.
Yeah, I have no idea. It might not. But I mean, I'm saying that when other states are saying we're going to have a shortage of medical personnel, it seems like that's the type of situation where
the
these
NBA and the
doctors would
NHL
run
can
away.
definitely send their doctors.
Yeah,
And baseball now can probably send their team doctors as well.
that's true. What are they delaying? 2 weeks for the start of their season?
Yes, they're at least 2 weeks.
At
That's
least, okay.
what they're. Yeah, so let's go over it. Obviously, NFL doesn't have anything to worry about. The draft, obviously, here in Las Vegas is one that everybody's been watching. The NHL has put their season basically on pause indefinitely. They are also investigating maybe a 4-team playoff. We can talk about each of these as we go. NBA has paused their season indefinitely, but at least a minimum of 30 days. And baseball, you're right, has delayed by 2 weeks. So let's look at these different sports. The MLB, obviously, with the discussions of a virus and spreading, you can do that. Yes, they seem less worried than the indoor sports because of the fact that a lot of times that airborne,
Yeah, that helps, and I think that with Major League Baseball that they can. But remember, there are still teams that play indoors in Major League Baseball.
that's fair.
So
I think just one.
is it just Tampa?
I think it's just Tampa. Everybody else has retractable roofs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they can do both.
Houston, yeah.
Houston, Miami, Toronto.
Yeah. Okay. So
Not that makes it a whole lot better. I'm just saying I can see an outdoor sport being obviously less worried about these indoor sports. But the thing that's laughable to me is, gatherings of under 1,000. Like, well, if there's 940 people here, we're not going to get coronavirus.
Yeah.
But if there's 1,002,
yeah.
careful. But the NHL obviously tried to hold out as long as they could. The NBA, obviously, we all know about Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. They tested positive for coronavirus, and I think that was the final domino to say, all right, we need to shut it down.
Yeah. And when it hits home like that, then I can understand the NBA saying, all right, these players played against other people. They interacted with their own team personnel, any of the fans they came in contact with or whatever, then that's a problem. The NHL then makes sense, not just because they're indoor, but because a lot of those teams share facilities with NBA teams.
Well, and also it's colder inside those arenas than sometimes it is outside, and we know about temperature and spreading a virus.
Sure, yeah. So
That's a very minimal effect, but it's also...
It's a factor.
It's a factor, yeah.
Yeah, no, it has to be.
Now, the question I have is, if there was absolutely no legal ramifications for a person contracting a virus in these venues, do you think they would have shut down as fast as they did?
No legal ramifications?
Well, I mean, from what I understand and what I read, the LA Times said that, if you could prove that you contracted a virus, say at the March Madness tournament or at the Golden State Warriors game, that you could actually be entitled to legal compensation or suing. And I got to imagine that because I read that, I'm assuming that people who run these leagues either knew that or read that too.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Don't forget, follow the money.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to lose millions to not have to lose billions?
I mean, it's just such a...
Because even if you don't contract coronavirus, but you contracted it in T-Mobile Arena, but I was in T-Mobile Arena, and they let you in. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a question we've got to get Mrs. McAwesome.
Yeah, get the wife on to see if she can answer that kind of thing.
I could be completely wrong, because I did read a newspaper, and, Donald Trump loves the news.
I don't know. It's one of those weird things where I don't know that it's necessarily a cost-benefit analysis, because...
That's the word I was looking for, cost-benefit analysis.
For the amount of money that would have been lost in a lawsuit, it would have taken years for that to come to fruition.
Sure, well, that's another thing. You can tie the common man up until he just can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, and the other side of it is, would they really lose more in a lawsuit that they would probably settle rather than losing the money from the ticket sales and everything else? Like, the NBA is talking about cutting their playoffs in half, essentially. And, I mean...
They probably should. That has nothing to do with COVID-19.
Well, yeah, I mean, going from the 16 teams where, half of them have absolutely no chance whatsoever to down to even 4 teams, getting rid of all of those extra games, all of that extra revenue from the tickets and the jerseys and the concessions and everything else.
You mean just for this season or in general?
In general. I mean, just for this season.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that they would lose more in the lawsuit than they're losing because of not playing these games.
I don't know. I mean, the question is if you run 20 games, I mean, how many available people are going to these games? I mean, how many people who are going to these games are available to open up this litigation?
Yeah.
If you're getting 15,000 people a game, and you get, just say on average every other game, someone who either had it or was exposed to it comes to your game. It may be a combination of both. It's the right thing to do in a situation like this, but at the same time, the cost-benefit analysis had to be, let's lose millions so that we save billions.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure that... And, the other side of it, too, is the PR side.
Well, the other side of it, too, was also, what about, why did they just... I mean, I think it's the Rudy Gobert thing, but the abandonment of the let's just play in empty arenas kind of thing.
Yeah, the empty arenas thing doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if you're going to have the games, have the full atmosphere of the games.
Yeah, but I mean, these guys are smart. They can find a way to somehow utilize the television contracts, streaming platforms. I mean, there's already, from what I understand, there's talks if the NFL draft is closed off to the public, that YouTube is going to stream it, a more interactive approach to it. They're already in talks with the NFL to find some kind of interactive approach to it, as well as it being broadcast on ESPN as well. Interesting.
I mean, and these are kind of the creative solutions that we're going to have to see, not just in the NFL draft, but in real life. Like, again, the new job that I started, we had a big, multiple 1,000-person event that was supposed to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And in the last 2 days, we had to figure out how to put the entirety of it online. And I think we have a good solution for it, but it's like uncharted territory to do this kind of event online.
Speaking of online, the WSOP has put their next 3 circuit events online as well.
I heard that, so...
it can definitely be done, is what I'm saying. I mean, obviously it would take some brainstorming in the war room, but, I foresee this as being I don't want to say a one-year wonder, but I don't foresee that. I mean, we have diseases or viral outbreaks like this. We have the flu every year. Life goes on. We had Ebola. Life goes on. We had swine flu. We had bird flu. We had SARS. We had anthrax. Life went on.
Yeah, I think the big difference between this and all of those diseases, which is they were all problematic, but I think it's been in part just how quickly and how easy it is for this one to spread compared to the others. Because, with the SARS, the swine flu, the H1N1, those sorts of things, it really had to be like if somebody sneezed and you walked through their germ cloud, you could get it.
Right, but
this thing is like if you have it on you and it comes in contact with like the deli counter at the local grocery store, it can live on that counter for up to 3 days.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that as healthcare combats this and finds a way to make it, we have flu shots, we have all of these different combative measures to all these other diseases or viral infections. I don't see a situation where the coronavirus is going to stop sports any other years, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is an isolated decision, isolated solution to this one time it's happening for specifically the coronavirus.
Yes. No, that I think is correct. And if any other disease that comes that is worse than coronavirus, they can either look back to their reaction to it or they can figure out something that they wish they had done better and, have a different reaction. But I think for the most part, we're going to see a lot of these, future pandemics probably not be as bad or at least not induce this kind of panic. And I think that will help as far as the future response for how these sports leagues react to it.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting over the next couple of days. Like I said, the big thing here is the NFL draft.
Yes.
Initial thoughts. The NFL has said that as of this point, we are going to have it. The question is are we going, you and I and other common man, going to be available to view it? Your initial thought, gut feeling, on March 14th. Remember, the draft, I believe, is the 23rd of April.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 5 weeks? 5 weeks
Yeah,
out?
about 5 weeks. Yeah, so, and that's sort of the thing, is that you don't know what is going to happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks that will help the NFL make their decision.
But at some point, when's the deadline that if, say you're traveling, what would you expect the NFL, the last possible, because now airlines are allowing cancellations, hotels are allowing cancellations up to 24 hours before with no penalty. If you're traveling in for this event, where is the last day that you're like, I gotta know? Yeah,
I should be in Puerto Rico right now. Actually, I should be on a flight connecting to Puerto Rico.
True.
Right
we weren't
now.
actually going to have a podcast today.
Yeah, because we were supposed to be going to celebrate family friend's 80th birthday party. And we were supposed to
do that here?
Well, they're in New York. We were all supposed to be meeting in Puerto Rico.
I would not go anywhere with someone who's in New York right now.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the problem, is that it's, we were supposed to be getting down there, and my wife was like, we can't go, it's stupid to go, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, if they're going, if the 80-year-old is saying that we're going to go, A, all right, if he's going to go, then let's go.
He's the high risk.
And B, if he does get it, there are worse places in the world to be quarantined than fucking Puerto Rico. And B, if he gets it, he is going to need help of able-bodied people like myself, my wife, and my sister-in-law and her wife.
I would assume you're going to a part of Puerto Rico that's rebuilt or unharmed by the hurricane.
It was mostly... it's actually a remote island off of Puerto Rico called, like, Cubaya or something.
Puerto Rico. Port of Puerto Rico.
But, it was... everything was either rebuilt or untouched by the hurricane, or like not so bad. So it should have worked out. It would have been fine. But apparently everybody was just playing cancellation chicken. Like everybody wanted to cancel.
Who was going to throw the first domino?
But nobody wanted to be the first one to blink.
So you guys blinked.
So it was a combination of my wife saying, "Is this still happening?" and then the 80-year-old in the background going, "I fucking hope not." And then everybody kind of at once saying, "Oh yeah, we never thought we should have gone," and like we all canceled. So, and you were talking about cancellations and everything else. The airline canceled us. I won't say with no problem. It took me over an hour to get through to them on the phone because the website wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And when
I'm sure that crashed.
And when I did finally get through to them, it was I got credit for the flight, so it's in my travel bank or whatever they call it.
Yeah, well, most of the I fly pretty much only Southwest as long as it's domestic, and they don't actually refund you either. They just credit you, and I fly enough that, frequently enough that I take the credit.
Yeah,
because I had already earmarked that money for a flight. So.
Yeah, and we're JetBlue, and it's the same thing. Like we're flying somewhere at some point, we're actually trying to reschedule this trip for Thanksgiving, which would be fine. Or, we're supposed to be going back to see my wife's mother for her 75th birthday. So, like, all that's fine. We'll use the money. Like, that's not a problem. But we called the hotel in Puerto Rico. We were flying into San Juan, had to stay there for a night before we could catch the ferry to the island. Mm-hmm. And the hotel we were staying at was just like, yeah, no, we can't give the money back. We're an 8-room hotel, and everybody is canceling. So we need the money. And we were just like, all right, we'll just wipe our hands of it, call it charity, and hope they can keep their doors open.
Can you write that off? Yeah. I have a friend who actually comes in town every year for the World Series of Poker who messaged me looking for inside information. And BT-Dub, if you're a poker player, I don't have inside information on that. That's not in knowledge I'm privy to right now. But as I do know from the information I do have, there has been no change in that. All systems go. But he lives in Italy. He is an Italian. So after he asked me that, obviously I gave him, the company answer. And I told him, I said, hey, how are things going over there? And he said, it is mass pandemonium. People are freaking out, but at the same time, they have cabin fever. Like, they're on a quarantine. They're on a national quarantine.
Right.
And I said, so, what's going on? He said, well, the problem is more people are easily affected here because, like, it's something I didn't think about because here in America, we're an industrialized world. I mean, we have how many cities? Not quite up to the magnitude of Newark or Los Angeles, but, I mean, you could talk about we have 50 cities that are probably thriving metropolitan areas in any other country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of these cities are bigger than other countries.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have 2. So the majority of the people that have contracted this COVID live in areas where access to even mildly up-to-date health care is not available.
Huh.
So not to try to put any more spin on this, but their mortality rate, and this is what he told me, our mortality rate is a lot higher because people in these villages refuse to come into these cities for treatment. 1, they don't have the funds. 2, they live in villages that, basically if you walked into it, you would say I'm in the 1700s.
Interesting.
So it's an interesting thought process to think, why? Because it is. Italy's mortality rate is far higher than even China's. But their conditions are a little different. But my point being is that I never thought about the fact you can't name a city here in America that still looked like it did in the 1700s, except for maybe like Deadwood, South Dakota.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, even Deadwood's probably built up enough, and and there are towns that have pockets of that kind of thing. Like I grew up,
the novelty,
right? But like I grew up right next to Andover, Mass, so you can see some of the historic like downtown in the center. But I mean, it's so small compared to the sprawl that's around it.
Right. And I mean, there's actually towns that, they have clay houses, no windows. I mean, this is their life. And what he said is, a lot of the deaths are coming from those towns. Like people in Rome aren't dying. People in Naples aren't dying. So it's an interesting thought when you think about it. So hopefully, obviously that information doesn't really do anything for the mass public here, but hopefully that information will help the fact that most people here, except for the Amish, live in modern civilization.
I forgot about the Amish. That's all right. It's not like they're listening to this shit.
Exactly. But if they are, I'd like some churned butter, please.
Ooh.
So we'll turn our attention centrally to you at this point, because you are a season ticket holder of a league that has suspended games.
Yes.
I am also a partial season ticket holder, but all of my games are complete, so I'm not sweating. What has that life been like as far as, I believe there's 5 more home games left in the Golden Knights season?
Yes, so...
What has the team's, position been at this point?
So... Of those 5 remaining home games, we sold off 3 of them.
Okay.
Because they were happening either while we were gone or it's the day that we get back from the trip to Puerto Rico. So we sold those months ago. Actually, one of them I think is still listed for sale technically, but whatever.
Pause.
Yeah. We have not heard word one from the team. They have not said anything. There is a little bit of speculation there's a season ticket holder Facebook group, which I think you're a part of as well.
Correct. Yeah.
And somebody said that there is a force majeure clause within the contract that says when games get canceled, and I think that's probably the key word, is canceled.
Because we're currently in the suspension.
Yes, it is. The season is suspended, but if these games are canceled and when the season resumes, it goes right into the postseason. The team does not have to refund our money. Now, the speculation is that the PR hit that they would get from not refunding the money would be too great.
Right.
And what they'll probably do is roll that money either into the playoff package, because as of right now, the Golden Knights are first place in the Pacific, so they are in a playoff spot, or it would be rolled into our season ticket pricing for next year.
Which would you prefer?
Probably the playoff model.
Really? I thought you were going to say next year.
Yeah, no, I mean, the next year...
A lot of people are facing price increases next year, so I would think that they've already earmarked this money, so it's almost like found money to them.
Right, and that's kind of why I'm looking at it as found money for the playoffs, because the playoff charges are extra and the tickets go up. So
round by round. Sure, fair enough.
So that's why I'm thinking if we take the 5 games that are left, apply that to the playoffs,
You're not forced to go to every playoff game.
No, I'm not forced to, but I
obviously you'd like to.
I'm forced to buy the tickets for them. Whether or not I can sell them is another option.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
I thought you just had first right of refusal.
No, so the way they do it is if you have to opt out, which we never do. Mm-hmm. But yes, if you wanted to opt out, you could. But since we're going to the playoffs, it's basically when you say you're going to the playoffs, you are in the playoffs.
You're going to all of them.
Yeah, they kind of force you into it, which is fine. And then they have the option of if you would like the ability to resell them, then they sell them. The team sells the tickets to you at a higher price than if you say that you're not going to sell them. And
right,
then
I remember the Knight Pledge.
Yeah, the Knight's Pledge.
One.
Exactly. Which, again, they hadn't mentioned if that was something they were going to do this year, probably because it wasn't guaranteed that the Knights were getting in the playoffs.
Well, not only that, they also really didn't monitor. I mean, they basically checked StubHub and made sure you weren't there.
Yeah.
Because I actually signed the Knights Pledge, too, to not sell my tickets and got a lower rate, and then just transferred them. Sold them, you and I meet up, and I transfer you the tickets. I sold one of the Sharks and one of the Kings games in year one.
Okay.
That way. And I've actually, as a partial member, I am not allowed to technically relist them on Flash Seats or Access or anything.
Sure.
So I've done that as well. People at work want to go, I'll sell them at cost, and we just transfer them.
Yeah. Transferring is, it doesn't look like they look too much at the transferring because, I transfer, even like if my wife is late for a game, I'll transfer her one ticket. This year we've sold.
That's why they offer that that feature.
Well, and this year we sold a bunch to one of our coworkers at cost, like what you were saying.
Right.
But there were a couple last year or the year before that we actually donated, and by donating we just transferred it on to the winner of. We did like silent auctions for charitable organizations. So for that kind of thing, that was all done. Through the transfer process rather than the selling process.
For sure. And yeah, that feature is obviously very handy to have, but if they're, if they're only doing this Night Pledge to just monitor StubHub, it doesn't work.
Oh, yeah.
So.
No, it's interesting. But yeah, no, like
it
I
is
said,
interesting that
we haven't heard anything.
I was saying, we've been suspended for going on 5 days now of the NHL and not even hey, please just remain calm. We're working out a solution. Because obviously the NHL doesn't know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Arenas have, not every team owns the arena, or, not every team has rights to the arena. So obviously if this thing pushes into June, July, August, and concerts come up, they have obligations to be fulfilled for other events. It's going to be interesting. I'm curious, because they're the two, obviously popular sports that are still out there. I'm curious to see, I assume NBA and NHL, because they do share arenas in some cities, are going to be working hand in hand with kind of coming back from this.
You would think, and you would think that they would have to have an organized response, but
the NBA has already said 30-day minimum. The NHL might not agree with that, or they haven't done a 30-day minimum. They haven't imposed a minimum on how long they're going to be suspended.
True, and it's kind of strange too because it's not every NHL team shares an arena with every NBA team. So there's the disconnect, which means they can't come up with a one-size-fits-all solution. So they have to essentially consider both. And if the NBA is saying at least 30 days, the NHL, they can say maybe 30 days in those arenas that are shared, but for the ones that aren't, do you start allowing practices earlier? Is that fair? Is that, when do you start allowing travel? When do you start allowing team meetings? So there's a lot to get into all this, too. I don't know. It's the whole thing is just, it's up in the air. People that get paid more than we do are making decisions that we may or may not agree with, but you kind of wonder what their mindset is when they're making some of these decisions.
Well, it's money.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost, to follow the trail. So, it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously, we'll be monitoring the situation over the next however long that might be. It's a day-to-day fluid situation. I'm curious to see, because over the next, I listen to sports radio on the way in and out of work, and I've seen some sports radio shows go to what I hate the most. It's called list radio. I hate list radio.
List radio.
Oh, my top 5 movie picks, my top 5 basketball players of all time. But at the same time, you have some other people who the two I really like is Dan Patrick and Clay Travis. And they have an ability to conversationalize a very trivial topic for, before you know it, 30 minutes. And it's nice to see that sometimes. And maybe that you need, you can't ask Jim Rome to do that because he's talking to a wall. For Colin Cowherd, he does have a sidekick, but mostly he's just kind of talking to you. It's a little tougher that way. But I applaud guys who can do that. But a lot of what I've heard over the last couple of days, if they're not talking about the coronavirus, is a lot of list radio, and it's kind of unfortunate. But hopefully over the next week or so, however long we're without sports, will be interesting to see how sports radio adapts to it.
Yeah,
and how the gambling world adapts to it.
The gambling world is another animal altogether, but just very quickly, this is where I really miss the old Opie and Anthony show, because Anthony Cumia especially, he could take a story about knocking tin and installing air conditioning units, which is what he was doing before he got on the radio, and turn it into a fascinating 45 minutes. And between him and Jim Norton and their ability to make fun of it and have a good story, good rapport, and actually laugh back and forth.
Who was the comedian, the black guy used to come on all the time too?
Patrice O'Neal.
Patrice,
oh my God. There's a story that Patrice did on Opie and Anthony about the time he got arrested, which it's the only time Anthony was so enthralled he actually let all of his computers go to screensavers, so he wasn't looking at. They had a live feedback thing before Twitter, before chat rooms were really popular for radio shows. They had a product called Live Feedback, and he let it completely go to screensaver because he was so engrossed in this story by Patrice O'Neal. It's on YouTube. You look up Patrice O'Neal best story ever told or something like that. Fascinating fucking story. Crazy
about how
story.
He got fired?
About how he got arrested.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was absolutely nuts. And, it's worth a listen.
I remember old school Open Anthony, and then most of the stuff I listened to was when they were finally on Sirius.
Oh, yeah.
Or XM, or both, I guess.
Yeah. They started on XM before they merged.
I think what happened with them, the reason they kind of tamed out was because what they did, their shtick, was Howard Stern-like for terrestrial radio. But once you go to a no frills, no filter, you almost seem tame.
Yeah, yes and no. And the other side of it is that...
you remember the bus? I forget what the name of the bus that drove around downtown Boston.
Oh, the stripper bus.
Stripper bus.
Yeah.
With naked chicks hanging out throwing beads and beer.
Yeah, no, they enjoyed that. But yeah, the problem with Opie and Anthony is that by the end they fucking hated each other. And
I can see that too.
When Anthony got fired he took pictures of I think she was probably a working girl, who knows, but she was a black girl walking around Times Square at 4 or 5 in the morning. Nobody else was around, so Anthony got a couple of pictures of her because he's an amateur photographer. That's one of his hobbies, was doing that kind of thing. She saw that, she got pissed, so she attacked him, and then a bunch of other guys were protecting her and attacking Anthony. Anthony went on a Twitter rant that Probably if you're going to go on a rant, Twitter is not the best place to do it, especially when you're limited by the number of characters you can put on there. So he wasn't able to explain himself fully. So when he called people animals, it was taken as this is racist, as opposed to him just being upset that he was attacked
by just
and
bad people.
Yeah, and so he ended up getting fired for that. And Opie did nothing to help Anthony keep his job. And now the two of them, they jab back and forth on Twitter every once in a while. Well, like real passive aggressive shit.
Still
now.
has a show, if I'm not mistaken.
He's got a podcast, and he had a show for a little while on.
He was always kind of dopey to me.
Everybody always made fun of him for just being a board op and kind of like killing the funny. Like,
yeah.
You know, he would always try to jump in when like Anthony and one of the comics were having a great rapport, and Opie was just kind of sitting there doing nothing, like playing Candy Crush sometimes. Opie would try to jump in to try to change the subject to keep the show moving along, and everybody was like, "What are you doing? We're in the middle of a bit. Like, cut the shit." So, yeah, it was a strange time. But, yeah, they still take shots at each other. I follow both of them on Twitter. Anthony's the better follow, but, yeah, it's interesting stuff. But, yeah, this is the time where I really missed it, because they could take anything. Even stories that they had told before that you had heard, they could tell it in a different, unique way, and it was interesting, as opposed to doing, like, List Radio, like, let's do, best movies coming out right now. Although, whenever they did List Radio, they would do, like, 100 down to, top 100, and they would start at 100, 99, 98, 90, and they would get to number 2 and then end the show. They never did number 1, which I always thought was great.
That is a different spin on it, though. I'm okay with something like that. But yeah, Jim Norton was always good too. I liked him.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter at Vegas Squares, which we hope you do, because I don't tweet that much anyway. So.
Yeah. And when we were tweeting, it was always like, "Oh, here are our picks," and now I just use Twitter to complain at companies whenever they fuck something up.
Yeah, you do not like DirecTV.
Oh, DirecTV fucking drives me crazy.
There was another one you don't like too.
Burger King pissed me off a little while ago.
Fight the fight, man. Don't let them off the hook.
Yeah, no, but the AXS app, I make fun of them.
Yes, AXS is the one. Yeah, you're like, if you choose between death and having to buy seats on this AXS app, give me the sweet release.
There's a lot of, but now, I mean, that's basically all I use it for, and a
lot of people use it for that way too.
Yeah, well, that's because they have these companies know how important Twitter is, and if you shit talk them on Twitter, all of a sudden they get mentioned, they're seen in those things. If you just search for JetBlue and you can see my tweet, what the fuck is going on with your website?
But the irony of it is that, yes, while Twitter is important, I believe, I would have to re-look at the facts, but I believe less than 15% of America is on Twitter.
It wouldn't surprise me
Isn't
at all.
Isn't that crazy, though?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy to think. But less 15% is still 40 million people.
I know, but... Yeah, there are so many more that aren't on it, that try to ignore it, or that don't. My wife doesn't use it at all.
Yeah.
Which, she should be in the age group that either does or kind of has one that doesn't pay attention to it. She's never been on it.
Does she even have a login?
No.
Oh, well then, yeah, I mean, there you go. I know people my age that don't have Facebook. And every time I think I want to I've deactivated my account before, and then I'm like, I'm going to let this deactivate for like a week. I think I've made it like 7 hours. And like even those like you're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights Facebook groups.
Yeah.
They have nothing of value. I mean, the season ticket one does, but the other ones, the fan groups, they have nothing of value to offer.
Oh,
but I'm like the minute I leave this group, there's going to be valuable information on it that I'm going to miss.
Even the season ticket group, like half of it is just sales, which drives me crazy. It's like, we all have tickets, that's why we're here. Why are you trying to sell to this group? But the fan groups, like, the first one I tried to join was run by this really, really, like, big, stupid-looking guy. Like, when you say, like an oafish type guy, that's exactly who you think of. So
Andrew?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I was going to call him out.
No, his first name's Larry.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So he tried to set up this official which he called the Las Vegas Golden Knights, which drives me crazy. The name's
been out Las Vegas.
Yeah. But it was going along. This is before the TV even started. They posted an article that was like a 3-year-old article, and it was about John Tortorella, and it was saying, if any of my players take a knee during the anthem, I'm going to bench him for the game. And I said, this has nothing to do with the Knights, and it's 3 years old. Why is this on this group? I got permanently banned.
No, of course.
So I was like,
because it's
all
free.
right.
It's free speech, sir, until they disagree with you.
Exactly. And then, and Bill Foley actually came out and said the same thing at the beginning of the first Golden Knights season. And then when they made the Stanley Cup final, I, tweeted at a bunch of guys like Ken from Sinbin. I was like, so can you ask Bill Foley if, let's say, Carlson, Smith, and Marchessault kneel during the national anthem of Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final? Are you going to bench him for that game, or are you going to bench him for Game 2? Like, how is this going to work? And nobody would ask the question.
Well, yeah, who wants to be the media guy that turns against the, who wants to be on the bad side of the owner, one, and who wants to ask the question that, everybody's going to be like, mic's up.
Yeah.
Well, if according to Ken, Gallant already didn't like him most of Gallant's tenure in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, according to him.
Okay.
And in some of his questions and Gallant's answers would lead you to believe that that's true. If you watch the video, because he'll look at Ken like the meme of what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, and
then answer him very snarky or sarcastically.
To be fair to Gallant, Ken's kind of an idiot, and if you read some of his articles and listen to some of the questions that he asks, he can be grasping at straws sometimes.
Well, I think Ken also, maybe year 3, he should be held to a higher standard. I still like Ken. We talk from time to time. And not that it's saying he's immune to criticism.
Oh, yeah.
But from day one of this inception, Ken knew nothing about hockey.
Oh, absolutely. And
sometimes it still shows, I'm sure. And he puts his fan heart right onto his typewriter too.
Oh, of course he does.
Computer,
which I actually appreciate. But when he's right, he usually brings up good points. But when he's wrong, he's off by fucking miles, and it's just really obvious. There's no room for debate. It's just no, you're flat out fucking wrong. Doesn't matter how you try to justify this.
Now you said, and we'll wrap it up here with this. You said you subscribed to Jesse and the Athletic.
Jesse Granger. I had a very good discussion with Jesse Granger on Twitter about whether or not Marc-Andre Fleury was a Hall of Famer.
Right, we've talked about that before.
And because of that, I was going to subscribe to The Athletic. I just haven't as of yet. But yeah. So I know I've been lazy about it.
Now he thought he got another one notch on his belt, and you lied.
I know. No, but I
was actually going to ask you if he was worth it, because
I am going to do it. Just based on his Twitter follow, he's worth it.
Because I know that they're cheap enough that I can sign up for his, but still get access to everything.
Yeah,
which would be worth it.
Yeah, no, I from the people that I read on Reddit,
but I noticed
Twitter,
the Athletic is also not. I don't want to use this cliche, but they've branched out outside of sports, and that's where it always starts to the dilution of a media company. If you're a sports journalism website, let's just I hate to use the cliche, but stick to sports.
It can, if you do it right, it's okay. Barstool, I think for the most part gets it right. Bill Simmons, when he was still with ESPN, did a really good job of bridging that gap between sports and pop culture.
He's fallen off his rocker a little bit.
He really has, which is unfortunate being a Boston guy too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult to walk that line. But I think if you just get it for the hockey people, especially the Jesse Grangers of the world, I think the Athletic's worth it, and I've been told that it's worth it by the people that on Reddit, on the Golden Knights subreddit, which 99% of that is trash. But the people on there that I actually
is trash.
The people on the Golden Knights subreddit that I actually respect all love Jesse Granger. So if you're in the air about getting it, I would say you can get it.
The caveat I would have in that spot, it's I can get hockey coverage for free other places, and it may be a step below, but they don't venture off into social issues.
Sure. No, that's fair.
And the thing is if I can get that for free, why would I go pony up, what is it, $4.99 a month?
Yeah, but it's cheap enough that it's not that big a deal. And it drives me crazy too. I
don't know, if I get quarantined, I'm going to need free services.
I feel
I
the same
may not be able to afford that $5 a month.
Yeah.
I got ramen to buy, stand in line for 4 hours to buy.
That's true. I can work from home.
I drove by Smith's today. There's a line out there. They're letting people in like a nightclub at Smith's.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I sort of figured that was going to happen.
By the way, can I borrow a roll of toilet paper?
I've got 12, so we'll...
I'm just kidding. We actually, the producer's dad works at Costco.
And nice.
He brings in the trucks. So, hey, you got this? Yeah, sure. Set it to the side. We have 67 rolls of toilet paper, sir, and we're not doomsday preppers.
There you go. Yeah, but I mean, that's the kind of thing. Like with my job, I can work from home. I don't
Sure.
know.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
don't
what-
have that luxury.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know what you and the producer would do.
Although, given the state of what's going on in this city, I may be at home but not working here in the next week. So
Yeah,
pray for me.
Yee.
Hashtag pray for me.
that's
It'll be an interesting couple of weeks. So as we
Yeah.
wrap up here, again, the coronavirus is.
yeah.
It may be.
Root for my Mexican soccer parlay.
Yeah, let's. I'll be on Twitter giving out futures bets and maybe some UFC fight bets tonight. So
There you go.
UFC's still going on, so that we can thank Dana White for. So
Yeah.
all right, let's wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Thank the sponsors: 12 Ounce Sports Radio, where we air every weekend. Catch us on Zingo TV, where you can use promo code 12 Ounce Sports to check us out on your Fire Stick or any of your other streaming devices. And Seat Giant, where you can use promo code 12 Ounce Sports, that's 12OZ Sports, for your discounted sporting events, concert, and theater tickets. For Spike, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening in. Hopefully we'll have some more sports topics to talk about. Maybe not on-field games, but the NFL, if they do not postpone, will have free agency.
Yeah.
The next podcast.
Yeah, there we go. We'll see where people are going and see if Tom Brady is still a Patriot.
And Tom Hanks is still alive. We'll see. All right, we'll see you on the next one.
Later.